Welcome to another episode of Inside the Headset with me, Palestine High School head football coach Kyle Ralph, special teams coordinator Wes Anderson. Coach, another one of the really good halves of football that we get to cover today, which I'm excited about. The second half of the 2014 semi-state game against Columbus East, and we talked about the first half yesterday, and ended kind of on a sour note there, right down on the goal line, down 21-7, and you come up empty. You get no points. So let's go in the locker room here, and I'm sure you had some dejected kids there, and a little bit dejected yourself, likely. So kind of talk me through, what's going through your mind as you walk off the field. I know usually in a normal game you're already starting to really chew the cud a little bit about what's going to happen here when you get in the locker room. So kind of walk me through all
that. Just like I kind of alluded to a little bit yesterday, a little bit unhappy with myself. I know we've talked, we're not playing very well. We're not executing exceptionally well. We're starting to settle in a little bit. I know I talked about Matt having to come in the offensive line. He's starting to settle in, and we're playing a little bit better. We're just not playing very consistently up there. And some of that is they're really good. I mean, you're not just going to mow through really talented teams. It doesn't work like that. So, we've just made a handful of critical errors in this game that have really hurt us, and two of those are probably mine. The game could be 21-13, and that sounds, like I said yesterday, a lot better than 21-7, and 21-10 sounds better than 21-7 also. So, I really, the walk in, I'm a little bit more concerned. Like I kind of referenced this yesterday. I'm a little bit more concerned about, is that feeling of 2013 starting to creep into their minds a little bit. And again, I said this too, we already had played significantly better than that. And we really had, again, just made a handful to a half a dozen major errors here that have cost us in this game to this point. So really, I mean, adjustment-wise on the way in, there's not much that I really think that we have to talk to the boys about. And really, we're not. We're not going to make many adjustments at all. It's going to play your gap, play the quarterback still. Our guy that's there for the quarterback has to play the quarterback. And when we call our man-to-man check, you have to play those guys in man-to-man on defense. Other than that, we're going to keep things really simple. Our defensive game plan has worked really well up to this point. We've held Markel in check up outside of maybe one or two carries. At this point the year before, God, he probably already had 200 yards against us or something crazy. I mean, he had just murdered us. So, offensively, again, we've had some really nice drives, and we've kind of stalled out in the back end of those drives inside the red zone, which is pretty uncharacteristic. Again, I went for it and got a little bit risky a couple of times there, and maybe should have came up and kicked the kicked the field goal and gotten the 3, but we didn't. And so really offensively, again, there's not a lot that we have to change. We've just got to score. And again, I took some of those points off of the board. So I'm actually pretty calm going in the locker room in this game, honestly. There's not a lot that I'm extremely concerned about. And I kind of relay that message to the coaches. We send them in there. They talk to the kids and see if the kids are maybe seeing or experiencing anything that we're not, ready for, or maybe we're not seeing. Feedback from that was really overall positive. All the coaches had kind of come back and said, hey, the kids feel really good. Like, they're not surprising us with anything. They feel really confident. And that's kind of where then I knew my message was going to hit, because when I send the coaches in, I usually kind of think about what my adjustments need to be, and then what the message is going to be. And I think this was, quite frankly, one of my better overall halftime kind of moments here. So I came in with the boys, and really, I mean, pretty much I took blame for the first half. And I told them that, guys, we're in this situation right now because of me. And I chose to go for, a 4th and short instead of kicking a field goal. And I went for even though the boys were involved in the one decision, it's still my decision. I went for that 4th and short down there. And again, there's a little bit that goes behind those decisions, and that's fine. But I think they needed to hear again that, and I know they know this, but that we're in this together, and that they were playing really good football up to this point, and they were playing hard, and we weren't losing because of anything that they had been doing. I made a couple of decisions, and that took some points off the board for us. And I apologize for that. And I told them, you guys are in a great spot right now, but we have to come out. We've got to play, better, cleaner football in the second half. And I said, we'll make up for those mistakes. I said, this is a kind of a two-way relationship that we all have built here. I pick you guys up, and I said, now I'm asking for you to pick me up and play a great half of football and cover up for 2 mistakes that I've made here in the first half. And I told him, I said, are they better than we are? And everyone, no. Is this the same group as 2013? And it was pretty much a resounding no. And I think that gave the kids a little bit of confidence in that. And it just reminded them that, I'm not infallible. And again, we're in this together, and we're going to get through this whole thing together. And I really, I wanted to hammer home the final point of, I mean, we're playing toe to toe with these guys, and we're not playing well, And so the final message was, if we settle down and we play the half that we know we're capable of playing, play dragon football, stop playing tight, go out there and really loosen it up, we're going to be able to come back and win this game. And it's going to be the greatest comeback that anybody has seen, because right now, I guarantee you that every single butt in those seats on both sides of the ball pretty much thinks that we're dead man walking. I mean, at 21-7 against Columbus East, you don't come back from that. They're going to milk the clock. They're going to run inside zone right down your throat. They're going to probably score another 2 touchdowns on you at least, and your kid's will is going to break, and it's over with. And they're just going to pound you into the ground and move on to be back-to-back state champions, because they had just won the year before. And I really felt like the message I gave is exactly what the kids needed to hear. I think it built confidence up in them. We really had played them really tough and hadn't played very well, especially offensive line had really struggled. And then again, defensively, we made a few critical errors that gave them, back-breaking touchdowns, really, and that hurt. So I just, we came out of the locker room, and I felt a little bit of sense of calm that kind of the veteran leadership of our team was going to really settle us in here. And, we're going to get the ball to bounce our way once or twice here as well, which is, I've talked about that plenty in this series. Like, you need those things to happen in games like this, or just in general. Good football teams do find a little bit of luck here and there. And our playmakers are going to start making some plays, and we're going to settle in at some of our positions. Offensive line plays a really nice second half. We get Alex and James both going. Alex starts to hurt him with his arm again. And we just kind of, I think all that big monkey on our back of 2013, as this second half rolls along, it just starts to fade away, and the kids start to really play the game. And boy, we played probably one of the best halves of football we've ever played. And it's a up and down battle. There's some adversity that hits us at points in this thing, but to our kids' credit, I'm not sure if and we've faced adversity. I know people wouldn't think that, but we certainly have. It's maybe as especially considering what happens here late in this game, it is maybe as even keel as I've seen our players remain in a situation like this. I mean, they just came out with such a high level of optimism and, we're going to get this done. And they never wavered in that. And I think that's a big reason why we win this game is even when things go poorly, they just stayed right there, and it was – I get the win is something that a lot of people that saw it will never, ever forget. But to me, the kick is not the memorable part of this game for me. The memorable part of this game for me is how these kids, rallied and banded together and when things go well, they kept playing well. When things go bad, they kept playing hard, and they never attacked each other. They never got down on each other. They just kept playing, and it was special. It was a special second half, and I know a lot of people, like I said, are going to say, "Oh man, Coach, the adjustments from the second half, and what'd you do?" Nothing really. I actually played a little bit more of a psychological game with the kids. We made no halftime adjustments here because we didn't need to. What we've been doing was working. We just weren't executing it very well, and we just need to make sure that we tighten that stuff up with the kids. So there's no, there's no miracle Gatorade that we drank here at halftime. We just got the kids in the right frame of mind. And then, as always, you have success when your kids are good players and they play well. We had a bunch of really good players come out and play a really good second half of football. That's it.
So you're going to start with the football here. How, in being around you as long as I have, I know there have been some games that we're in where we're walking off the field and you usually say to me, like, we've got to score right out of the gate here. We need to score. Did you have that feeling here, or we're just going to kind of let this go and see how it goes? I mean, did you put like a increased focus on we've got to score on drive one here?
I think internally I knew that we needed to. Again, and I'll say this too. It isn't like what I just said is like some again, there's no miracle here. There's no miracle Gatorade or anything that we give our kids at the half. It isn't like that speech I gave the kids or the kind of questioning that like the reassurance questioning that I had given the kids is going to win this game for us here. At the end of the day, that whole halftime was about approaching their mentality, essentially, and making sure that mentally we were in the right frame of mind to come back and win a game like this. Now, that's all well and good, but at the end of the day, you have to support that somehow. And, yeah, you would like to come out and score and get points right out of the gate here. It's not necessary. It's not like a must, but that would have really boosted that, that speech. All of a sudden now it's like you start to get people to believe. And, I think in a game like this, a good drive that ends in any kind of points is just as important in that scenario. It's not critical, but what you don't want to do is you don't want to come out and go 3 and out. Cause now, again, I gambled. I gambled big at the half. I replanted the seed of 2013. And it was not to remind them in like a tale of caution, like, guys, this is what could happen if we don't play well here. It was more to remind them of, you've worked way too hard from then to now to just roll over and die here. And the risk in planting that seed in their head is if this goes well at some point early, they're going to start to buy in and remember all that they've done to get to here. If it doesn't, I pretty much just planted the seed of our own demise, essentially, because now they're going to start thinking, oh, God, this, heads go down. And it's like, oh, God, this is 2013 again. Here we go. Here comes the Markel show. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to necessarily press it here on offense to manufacture points. Quite frankly, our defense is going to help us out here shortly and really get us going. But, we pretty much follow the plan I told the kids, though. We just keep chipping away at the things that we think are going to work, the things that we've planned for, and we start doing them better. But, yeah, I mean, I want to come out on these opening drives and obviously produce something here because you got to follow up what I just said. And there's no better way to build confidence than what was our high power. I think at this time, these two teams were the number 1 and number 2 scoring offenses in the state. So there's no better way than for our offense. And I think they actually both might have had like 2 of the top 3 defenses too. So no better way to come out than our offense getting itself on track and scoring here, but ends up being our defense that bails us out too.
Let's get going. Like I said, offense coming out first here.
One thing too, as you watch this that I don't think a lot of people get, I think we'd had some great kickoff returns, by the way, in this game, which you've already watched. They opt to not allow that to happen again and go with the squib. But the other thing I'm going to say too about this is this kid was a really good kicker. I'm not 100% sure this squib is where he wanted it to go. One thing that you cannot understand about this game, just watching it on film, unless you were there though, is the ground is you can see his left foot. It looks kind of strange. The ground is like a weird 80% frozen, 20% thawed, like sheet of ice and mush. It's literally frozen grass blades and dirt, essentially. I mean, it was really cold, and it was a very difficult surface to play on. I will say this too, to add on to that. I think that was one advantage that we had in this particular year that we no longer possess because we've got that beautiful turf field. But, we had played on grass, obviously our home field the whole year. And then most of the teams that we played, with the exception of one, are grass fields. And so East doesn't have that. Most of the teams they play are turf, their turf. A couple of their conference schools, I think, were still grass at this point. But, again, Markel makes a living on his ability to cut on that zone stuff. And I really do think in this game that the strength that we had added and the ability to dig into the grass with our strength and size is going to help us even up with them. But I really do think that it was an underestimated part of this game that our kids really had trained and learned how to play properly on grass, and theirs really had not. I think, again, it's not why we won, but I think that it definitely helped us slowing down Markel some here because he just couldn't be quite as crisp and as sharp with the cuts he wanted to do on a surface like this. But that's Indiana playoff football. I mean, this is stuff you got to deal with. I mean, a frozen, partial thawed ground. I mean, who expects that? I mean, people in Georgia don't have to deal with that stuff or whatever. So that's just part of Midwest playoff football that makes it kind of cool.
All right, here we go.
Bad snap. Nothing like coming out of the gate with that.
And back to our switch vertical stop concept here.
Yeah, we had this one earlier. And again,
we talked about this part of the field right here.
Yeah, we're going to run these guys off and break this route off and put one right on the chains here. Another really bad snap.
Yep.
This is the time now where the heart's up in the throat a little bit here.
Looks like out.
Yeah, so same thing, just a different way to get to that part of the field. This is our 2x2 out route here. We're going to attack the same part of the field. We're just going to get there in a different way. Like I said, most of what we had in play were lots of different ways to come after that part of the field. This is a different one. You've seen a straight up hitch. You've seen a switch vertical that ends up becoming a stop route out there in that area of the field. You've seen us kind of run mesh where two guys end up getting to those two landmarks out there. Here's now an out route where a guy from the inside gets to the outside in that area there. We don't want to put anything really truly over the middle. It's going to be numbers to outside and occasionally to the hashes, but that's what we thought was the soft part of the defense. And again, we came up with a lot of ways to attack that. So there's another one. And they're different. They're different kids getting their different ways. That was the big thing. You can't just do it the same way all the time. Alex makes a good run here on a scramble.
This looks like curl wheel.
Yep. Really, if we really would have just run curl right there, we had it wide open again, the arrow would have been there. But try to drag that guy off. They play play a little different structure than we had planned. And then we drop one.
Yeah, that's unlike Duke. That's really uncharacteristic.
Yeah, I actually don't recall.
That's a killer on 2nd and 6.
Yeah, because that's probably going to be a missed tackle. I mean, it's close. It's going to be close, but if he's got the ball in his hands and keeps going that inside path, that's probably a missed tackle. We've got a big play. I don't recall many times he ever dropped a football. I'd probably count him on 2 fingers, to be honest.
Mesh, that one probably should have went to the dig.
Yeah, that was another one. Alex tried to kind of get this one in here to that soft spot, and he really should have just been a little bit more patient. This dig's going to come open right there if he just hangs on tight. He's going to run right by that guy, and he just gets rid of it quick. Again, we got a pretty good little pocket. We got a pretty good little pocket. We're just, he thinks he's going to hit that kind of soft spot in the defense and kind of just dump this one over this kid's head. He doesn't read it right, and we get some pressure. We get beat, so he's got to get rid of it anyway. So not what we want. And again, here's another one of your really, this game is the only time I can remember ever doing this, but another really short chip shot punt to play field position here. Nick, as much as we've watched, those of you that have watched this series now, as much as Eric was a hidden MVP kind of the state championship game with his punting against Valpo, boy, oh boy, is Nick one of the hidden MVPs of this game for his punting. And, I mean, he's also playing defense, offense, et cetera, and special teams. But, man, oh, man, do people really undervalue the special team side of things so often, and what plays like this mean to the big picture of a football game.
Here's a really good example, a little bit of what we talked about in the first half, where you get him to bounce this.
Yep.
Get him to bounce it right to Noah.
Yep. It's all about going side to side. I mean, it's a wall of red, and that's what we're looking for. We don't want to give him any air to breathe. And, well, that play essentially leads to this, really, because they're now behind the chains, which is huge. Again, these are scenarios that when we break tape and stuff down, I'm just going to be honest, we really didn't know what to expect, and I'm sure they were probably the same way from us to a degree. We didn't know what to expect on 2nd and 3rd and longs because they weren't in them. I mean, unless they'd gotten a penalty, like a holding penalty or something, they weren't in 2nd and longs. So we obviously have our standard package defense for any of their quote unquote spread stuff, but they had rarely had to even come out of 12 or even 22 personnel ever. I mean, we had rarely even seen them have to do that stuff. So we obviously have our 3-3 stuff built into their standard spread, but this was not their comfort zone. 2nd and 8, 10, 3rd and 9s, that is not where they function very well because they just hadn't done it. The math would still say on 2nd and 10, give the ball to Markel. He averaged 12 a carry. He's going to get it for you. But, yeah. So anyway, that play essentially creates this one, and then our playmakers create what you're about to watch.
What actually happens here? I can't really tell because the film is so blurry because we're moving the camera around.
Yeah, because it zooms out there. So here's what happens, and this is crazy. So, again, I'm going to give him credit first because Garrett was an exceptional player. But I was super proud of him because he was a kid that had really changed his body and his strength. He was always talented, but he was a captain for us as a senior and deservedly so. He's a 6'3", 180-something pound strong safety that could also play corner for us. And he's playing corner in this game because of their height at receiver was such a problem for us. We had to put him out at corner. And because he was so big and also had developed himself to become so strong, what you're going to see here, he had done in this season multiple times. And this receiver, by the way, is really good and a big kid too. But Garrett, because of his size and strength out there on the perimeter, he had literally single-handedly ripped a ball away from receivers one-on-one multiple times this year. And there was one play against Pendleton Heights I'll never forget where he baited them like he was going to play cover 3, but he was actually playing cover 2. And then they threw essentially exactly like this play right here. They threw a now screen out to the kid from Pendleton Heights, and Garrett hard charged it because he's actually playing cover 2. And before the kid could secure the ball, he was literally on top of the kid, had his hand in between the kid's ball and chest, ripped the ball out, threw the kid to the ground, and then recovered his own fumble by himself on one play. It was incredible. It's on my clinic tapes. It's absolutely unbelievable. He literally does the exact same thing here. He looks like he's going to play loose and play cover 3, and he's not. So when this ball comes out on this little now route out here to the outside, you're going to essentially see him have the ability to hard charge this ball and get there before this receiver can actually tuck it away. So right there, if you pause it, he is already in the backfield hard charging this thing. So as this kid catches this ball and tries to tuck it, Garrett actually splits this kid's hands and gets his hand inside of the football and the kid's arms. And instead of just tackling him, he tears the ball out and then goes for it in the end zone, and then Adam ends up falling on the ball in the end zone. Garrett doesn't quite get to it, and then Adam actually falls on it, and we get a huge defensive touchdown here. I mean, it really is – and you say, like, what a lucky play. I'm serious. He had done this 2 or 3 times this year. I mean, it was amazing. He just had such a great knack for the position and the football and how to play it. He was really, really good. So this was, like I said, we don't get it on offense. We have a couple bad snaps out of the offensive line, the center there. We drop a football, we move it, but we don't execute again. But this was that kind of life-breathing moment of like, okay, we needed to score so bad here. And, man, is this a big play. To get one out of our defense was incredible. I mean, just incredible. So, yeah, that's what happens here. It's an amazing play, but one that we had seen. I mean, it's crazy to say that, but it wasn't uncommon to see Garrett do this in the course of the season because he had done it before.
right, so 21-14 now. Yeah, here's the old burst.
And that's as close as it's going to get here for a little bit.
That little Laredo quarterback there.
Yep.
Too tight.
Yeah, right back to the bread and butter here. You know, that again, that's one thing I love about Coach Gaddis and his program. I mean, they just had something really negative happen to them. Most coordinators on the other side of the ball are going to push the panic button and say, oh, we better make a big play to counter it. Not these guys. Here it comes, boys. We're going to go right back to the comfort zone, and it's going to become the Markel show, and we're going to do what we do. We're going to get the train back on its tracks. And, I think that's such a – in my opinion, not like my opinion matters for a lot, but in my opinion, that is one of the signs of a really good and a really confident football program and a really good and confident play caller. You know, there's no sense right now to push the panic button for them and start chucking the ball all over the field because we better get 7 points. It's not necessary. It just isn't. Get your kids settled back in. Get your kids back into their comfort zone. You know, don't if you hit the panic button, they hit the panic button. And again, that was a big part of my halftime speech, but that's a big part of what you're going to see Coach Gaddis and his guys do here. There's no reason to sit here and sound the alarm. You know, for them, this is still 21-14. They're in the driver's seat. They've got a really good football team. You know, why would we need to go reinvent the wheel here? It doesn't make sense. So this actually is our counterplay, which you haven't really seen much of. Boy, that's intimidating when all those big boys come pulling to one side. That's not something that makes you sleep well at night. I know that.
You know, there are a few groups of offensive linemen that make you feel like that. And this is one of them. The other one I can think of in recent memory is like 2015 Center Grove. You know, when they get in their heavy package and they put Javon Swan and they put Tid over here, and they just run buck sweep with those big 330 pounders, and they would just punish you. This is another group that's like that. As soon as you see one of these big 300 plus dudes coming around the corner on you, you know you're in for it.
Yeah, not great.
Little draw there on 3rd and long.
Yeah, really good job by our kids here. You know, again, you're starting to see the sidelines are coming alive. The kids are feeling it. Big stop here for us. You know, it's a really good job by our guys up front on this particular play. Really nice job.
So they go 3 and out.
Yep.
And once again, pretty good field position for the offense here.
That's a heartbreaker. Characteristic overthrow here because, boy, do we have one. Yeah, Alex he just doesn't follow through here. We pretty much run our fade concept here, and he just doesn't follow through on his throw, honestly, and just kind of sails it up high. But, man, we've got something good here if we can. Same thing. We're running a different route again to get to that same segment of the field from a different player. This time now it's Noah who's getting there from a different player, from a different spot at a different angle. You know, we ran out, which is deeper. That last one was fade, which is a little bit more shallow. He'll get there quicker. We had it. We just don't convert it. It happens.
This Purdue.
This trap.
Actually, he leads.
Yeah, he ends up that guy gets collected and he goes around for the backer.
I see it. Okay.
We're gonna hit this. We're gonna hit this big here in a little bit.
You did run some power this year, right?
We did, yeah, quite a bit.
Just not in this game.
Yep.
So 3rd and long again. Here's a flood concept.
Yeah, we don't get a great block. We don't get a great block here. It's well covered. Same thing. We're attacking this side of the field really heavily now with 2 other people, and we don't do a good job up front, and then James tries to correct, and we miss that too. I think if you go back, slow-mo that real quick, because I think this is, yeah, pause. If you notice, what you really can't see because it's a little bit blurry, this is before we really upgraded to our nice fancy sideline HD camera here. That young man that is putting on the extreme pressure from the edge that beats our tight end and right tackle and then beats our running back, that's Markel.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was something they had done from time to time, and they didn't really do it in the first half. But it was on film when they had played in some big games. And he initially, when he was younger, had played defense anyway, as well as running back. But you're going to start to see this happen. It's a good point to stop here because I remember that they did it earlier than I thought, so I knew this was coming up on tape here. This is something they had shown on film every once in a while in a big situation, in a big game, whatever it might be. They had played all their studs on defense, and it wasn't something that is regular for them. It's more of an as needed thing. The one thing that I did know about Coach Gaddis's program is that they are a 2-platoon system. They have a bunch of kids down there, and they have a full offense and they have a full defense, and those two things don't intermingle. So I knew that when these kids play defense, they don't get much practice time at that because they're dedicated to one side of the ball. And so they were a little bit more prone to mistakes and a lack of discipline. We actually were hoping he would play defense some, even though he's a great athlete, but he wasn't maybe as disciplined and assignment sound as the other kids had been. So our goal was actually to come after him. So we get ourselves in a really good play here. And then he makes us he makes us pay for that, But this was actually a little bit of the plan is if he came in, we kind of wanted to come after him a little bit because he just wasn't as sharp on defense. And they're two big Division I caliber tight ends will both play D-line here later in this game. You're going to see 3 or 4 offensive players late in this game come over to play defense. And that's actually when we start moving the ball better. And really, I think is a big part to the success of our final drive because those guys aren't used to that. Their lungs aren't used to that. Their brains, as far as the, rapidity of assignments and all that stuff, they're not used to that. I actually think it plays into our hands some. But, yeah, that's Markel over there. So, go Dragons. I mean, it's definitely not what you want to see, but we did have a plan for it at least.
So 3 and out, still 21-14 here. Nick does a really good job of pushing that one down in the sideline.
Yeah, he was a really good directional punter. He could boom it too, but like I said, this type of stuff he was so good with. I mean, so good with. And that ball's outside the numbers. He's really, really well done.
Yeah, come back to white pop.
Yeah, we cover it here, but they come back to the other massive tight end and just dump it to him instead. We cover the main one, but they're just too big and too good, honestly, to cover both like this on a scramble scenario. So we get him covered really well. That's Nick actually covering the big guy. Mm-hmm. That's 5'9.5" on 6'5" or whatever that kid was, 6'4", 6'5". The other kid ends up just getting loose on us. They scramble around those big bodies. It's hard to stay with those guys. We've got our hands on the football here, but we can't get it away from them.
Boy, I thought we had him bottled up here.
Yeah, it always seems to be that way, and then their O-line starts pushing, and Markel starts pushing behind it, and I think he was like a 500-pound squatter. He's a strong kid. He gets in there behind that line and starts pushing too. Again, it's it's not easy to stop these guys, and especially as talented as that kid was. I mean, things like this happen. We knew it was going to be a bit of a war of attrition, and we're just fighting the battle. You can see us doing a great job, though, keeping him front side. You see him there kind of stutter. He was looking for that cutback again, and we're not giving it to him. So he has to bounce it front side again. Some running backs are really good at that, though. Again, that was our learning moment from 13 is we just felt like for him that was our best chance. Some backs, like, again, I think Charlie was a better front side cut inside zone back than Markel was. Markel was probably a tick better at Charlie on the backside cut back. You couldn't do this to Charlie, though.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'll go back to that one, sorry.
No, that's
while
okay.
you're talking.
No, you're fine. But you couldn't do something like that to Charlie because he's going to make you pay for it because his momentum, yeah, golly. His momentum was so strong that when he kept his body moving to the front side gap, his jump cut ability was really, really good, and then reacceleration was even better. So he's a great front side cut runner. Markel was not quite the same, and the attack doesn't work for all zone backs. Like I said, you really should not have done that against a kid like Charlie. And actually Nick, who's our running back the year after this, Nick was really good at front side cuts as well. But that was what we felt was best for us. It doesn't work for every zone back, but for him, I think it did. So and we're executing the plan a lot better right now as a side note. Oh, my mercy, did we miss this one here? This was
that interception.
So we had that too, but this play right here, I think is quite frankly, and it doesn't work, but it's one of my better calls of the night. So we have set this up by hammering that area that we've talked about. Oh my God. We've hit it over and over and over and over and over again. And you can see that corner hesitate because we're wide open again. We are wide open on the same route that we've run a couple different ways, a couple different times. And I told Alex on this, I said, look, you got to give the arrow, which is the route that Noah runs on the bottom of your screen here. If you go back, you got to give the arrow just a little bit of a glance and pump, and he does. And that corner freezes, and, man, do we have this thing. I mean, this is on the fingertips. Oh. So, again, we're coming after – we're using all of the data that we have fed them. They're hitting the flat. They're hitting the flat. They're hitting the flat. They're hitting the numbers. They're hitting the numbers. They're hitting the numbers, all that stuff. We use that against them here and go for a big one that we've kind of set up a little bit. And this is just our standard fade call. It's not a trick play. This is our standard fade call. The only difference here is I told Alex, I need you to just kind of pump this arrow early and get them to choke down a little bit to cover it. You can see the safety even stops as well. And then that fade is going to go right by him and throw the fade, put it out to him.
Man, that is a good throw. Holy moly.
This ball is about 1 inch too far. I mean, it is exceptional. So, it happens. It's again, I think that's one of my better calls of the night because it's a great scenario for it. They're going to want to pin us in here. We're getting kind of the coverage that we want, and oh man, we're an inch away from a huge one. So now we're 2nd and 10 backed up, and now you've just got to get the ball out of here. You don't want to punt from your own 3. So we're going to try to scrape together. The goal now as a coordinator is, all right, I took kind of that quote-unquote home run backbreaker type shot here. I got to get our offense now off of the 2-yard line. You can't, in my opinion, you can't do things, I guess another little inside the headset piece here. You can't do something like that twice in a row. You've got to get your offense out of a hole now and allow your punter some breathing room because because Lord knows they're going to come after this if you're on the 2-yard line. And if we get a punt blocked again, psyche-wise, this game is over at that point. To go down 28-14 off a blocked punt in your own end zone, go ahead and fold the tents up and go home, boys, because it's over.
So still 21-14 here.
Yep. And we're 3rd and long.
But the defense is holding fairly well at this point.
Yep.
Let me get. Sorry, I had to go chase dogs around. Let me get sat back down here.
No, that's fine. And that's kind of the big thing here too is our defense is playing really solid football and playing a lot more disciplined football. Again, you're not going to sit there and just hold a team like Columbus East to nothing. I mean, they're going to score here in a second, but we're not making the mistakes of the first half anymore. You know, we're playing much cleaner. Get a good punt off here, especially considering the situation. I think this might be the drive where he sneaks one through on us and gets a pretty good run out of one of these. It may be in the 4th quarter. I can't remember. I thought it was this quarter, though. He kind of pokes one through. Really good job by our guys again here.
Oh, about lost it.
Yeah, we're close on that one. Really close.
Comes on outside.
Yeah, they get us.
This
is the one here. I think he gets us on this one, this outside zone. I want to say we get maybe a little bit of a hold here on the edge as well, but yeah, they get us on that one. That's one of the ones he converts.
Back to inside. 2 back. Outside. Or that's inside. That's kind of a split flow.
I'll tell you what, they're you know, for those that are just kind of fans of Indiana high school football and whatnot, their 2-back stuff for years has been really good, and they've had the players. I mean, you know, you got to have some guys to obviously be able to do that stuff and execute it at their particular level. But man, oh man, and they don't do a lot of flashy stuff with it. But boy, their 2-back stuff has been really hard to stop. They get in 2 tights and 2 backs back there in the gun, and they've got mobile quarterbacks and stuff, and they got 2 running backs that can really complement each other and run. They are hard to deal with.
You know, it kind of reminds me a little bit, some of this 2-back stuff that they do really is kind of some old Rich Rodriguez, West Virginia stuff. You know, for West Virginia, it's Pat White, Steve Slayton, Owen Schmidt, type big fullback kid, and they would run outside zone lead. They'd run split flow inside zone. They'd run a counter off of it. Quarterback's a run threat. I mean, it is really good stuff.
Yep, it is. It's pretty much exactly that. Yeah, dead on. That's a really good, really good comparison.
I mean, it's really kind of the personnel they have here too. You know, they've got that bigger body fullback kid that can absolutely pound you.
Yeah, I mean, really, Markel was fullbackish in this year, but the other kid I think was a big boy in this particular season. Was a big boy too, and then a couple years after this, they've got a really good running quarterback that throws the ball pretty well also. And then they had a real small shifty back with a bigger, thicker back. I mean, they've just had good personnel for this stuff. So they end up getting one down here and have a nice drive, and they score. You know, again, it's not like – I mean, what you can't expect your kids to just sit there and just shut Columbus East out. That's just – it's not reasonable, you know, and we're going to be a little bit of bend, don't break, and – we give up 7 there. Here's another squib on the ground, which is good because it means we're going to win field position battles. You know, if they got to keep doing stuff like this, we're going to have good field position. Unfortunately, we get a silly penalty there. So, yeah, 3rd quarter starting to wane, and we're back down 2 touchdowns now instead of the 1. So we're down 28-14 now. Again, no reason to hit the panic button here. This is actually, again, probably one of my better play calls of the night. You're going to notice it's a different running back here. So this is Sterling at tailback. like I've said a couple of times, the trap has been there. We've run it a few times now. It's been there. And this, again, I think is part of a coordinator's job. We don't have a lot of personnel, okay? Like Sterling's a starting linebacker. James is our running back. Our third string tailback was Gabe, who's our middle linebacker. Nick, who's our starting adjuster. The fourth string tailback was Gabe, who's the middle linebacker. The fifth string tailback actually was either Adam or Noah. They both play defense. We don't really have like a wealth of personnel. We do have a wealth of good players. You've just got to use that personnel the right way. And for as good as James was at inside and outside zone, and he was very good at it, James is not much of a trap running back. And I just felt like, because he was 205 pounds, and he was long. He was over 6'1". So I just felt like he didn't have the burst to hit the trap as quickly as it was there. Their defense was so good. That trap was just there and then gone, boom. And he just wasn't quite hitting it with the same kind of tempo I thought that it was there for. Sterling is much more compact and really explosive. So I sub him in for this play and called trap, thinking that his ability to accelerate is going to get us to the hole before it collapses. And again, I'm not saying like it's a great call because it works out really well for us here, but it's a lot of stuff that in my head is building up throughout the game. And as a coordinator, I need to make an adjustment here and get the personnel on the field that are going to make this play better. We're executing the play well, but something's going wrong every time because we're just not getting to the hole very sharp and very quick. And it's closing too rapidly. So I can fix that. And so I put Sterling in, and he gets there much quicker than James does because he's got a little bit more burst in his opening couple of steps. He was always a great trap back for us. He'd run this throughout the year pretty well. And I sub him in, and he rips this one right down the pipe.
Do me a favor here. Hang on one second. Talk about this.
Go ahead. Oh, yeah. So we've done this to them in years past a couple of times. This year was just a little bit of a decoy. So like normally we would read that guy on plays like this or whatever it might be. The backside guy you can see essentially is going to kind of do about the same thing here. This guy's on the front side this time. The problem that, again, gosh, when you play teams that are well coached, okay, the problem that you run into is they are exceptionally well coached, and certain stimulus triggers certain responses. We're having trouble blocking these edge players on some of these plays because when you run fit them, they were just spiking on us so hard. Or, like I said on that trap, they were shutting those gaps down on trap. So what we do then on this is we give them a stimulus here that is going to get us a response that doesn't screw our play up, essentially. We do this to them in 2015 on a counter, actually. So we borrow the same adjustment we've made here and use it in a different season against them. But that pass set by him is going to get this – 42 is a really good player, by the way. It's going to get this kid to – you can see him all of a sudden realize, like, wait, that's not a pass, you know. He goes in a pass rush mode. So right now, look how well coached these guys are. As soon as he sees pass, watch his inside hand. Look at his inside hand try to swat our guy's inside hand. Like he is full pass rush mode. And then he realizes when he gets his eyes up, wait a minute, that's not a pass. And he immediately goes back to a gap fit in the run game. The good news for us is that gap he fit is the C gap. Because normally he'd probably compress us down to the B gap, and it could mess this play up. And so we're just using their coaching against them here. We have done this in the past, again, against really well-coached teams. You've got to coach your kids to their level. And in my opinion, I think our staff does a great job of that. We have a great staff. And this was something that we decided to do to give their kids a stimulus that we could predict the response to that would make our play more successful. So that's what you're watching here.
Because the thing is, we're probably in trouble if he does this, and when we're trying to, if we try to just wash him, we're never gonna get him hooked. But if we try to wash him, we may end up washing him right down to us.
Yeah, and that's happened in this game before. Guys squeeze that B gap so hard.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean that's really all we're doing here. And again, like that C gap block on trap most of the time is pretty inconsequential unless that guy takes your tackle and beats him across his face into the B gap. Then it's a major problem. So we're trying to prevent that by essentially, some people that run like wing T and whatnot, they call those false keys. We're essentially false keying their defensive line right now to get them to do things that, are going to harm our plays less, essentially. So, again, I think it's just really good. Really, really small, simple stuff by us that goes into a large, overarching plan. Yeah. So here we go.
Probably pushes this one a gap too far.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just.
Yeah, we're in business there.
But, that's the thing about zone, kids kind of have to read it their own way, and sometimes that happens.
Mm-hmm.
We are back in the two back.
So we get the quarter here. We come back with kind of our two back ISO, and it doesn't work. We just get, literally exploded up front here.
So 3rd and 7 here.
Yep. Big conversion right here. Same thing. This is the route, just tweaked a little bit that we ran down on the goal line earlier. Just a little tweak. That one was more of a rub. This one's going to be just a straight up slant here to Logan. He runs a beautiful route. Again, we've got Markel in the game at the bottom now that they're in the red zone. You can see he really – that's number 2. Sorry, that's number 2 actually. It looked like Markel. But 2 kind of gets stuck in no man's land here. That's just a really good pitch and catch by those guys.
Quarterback zone.
Yep.
Well, it kind of sawed us off with a pretty gnarly cut block right there on the right guard.
Yeah, we don't.
It's going to be frontside B gap run through.
We literally don't get the leading tackler in the state of Indiana blocked either, which is not what you want from your guys up front here. But I'll tell you what, that kid was good, man. He was hard to find. We just literally fall over.
Fell down.
We literally fall down and trip and don't block him. And that's not what you want. You don't want Indiana's leading tackler unblocked. You'd prefer to have a guy on him. Oh, man. So, yeah. So it's starting to get a little tense right now of like this is definitely a 4th and go scenario here. If we don't convert this, we are going to have to go for it here. And boy, oh boy, the way that we're not performing right now, do I not want to go for this on 4th and a hair from the half-a-yard line. Thank God we punched this one in. It's sloppy too. Boy, we got bodies in the backfield, and the goal line's always a bit of a mess, but huge drive for us. Some nice conversions on 3rd down. That one right there was a 3rd down conversion. Again, nothing crazy, nothing wild, no trickery. That was trap, ISO, inside zone, quarterback inside zone, and a pretty routine slant pass. You got to do what's gotten you to this point, and you got to do what your kids do best. And I will say this too. I learned as a head coach, because this is only my 2nd year right now in this particular season here. I had learned a lot from year 1 to year 2, especially about game management, sideline sideline body language from myself especially. And you know, we've talked about manufacturing points on this thing quite a bit, but the need to manufacture points is not as great as the need to continue to do what your players do well and put them in a position to be successful. I think I had learned a tremendous amount in those three areas over the course of a year just from experience. And again, there wasn't a magic pill or anything that we took at halftime to come back in this game. You're going to see the same plays over and over and over, just executed better and with more confidence. So that's what's going to be here in the last couple of drives as well.
So 28-21 East here, and they get a penalty on this kickoff that really backs them up.
Yep. Boy, this is big here. This is such great coverage by Duke.
It's the same post route from the first half that
literally the exact same thing they came after us on that first drive of the game. They just put this little bubble in there with it now. And boy, I mean, Duke blankets this kid right there, arm through the hands, gets his like left pinky or right pinky and ring finger on the ball. And I mean, absolutely textbook. Again, it was just a personnel change that we had to make for the matchup that we had gotten. So now they're back into more spread type stuff again, which is not where they want to be. You can see they're bleeding the clock. And this is probably one of my favorite plays of the game. So they get this screen on us here, and it gets set up relatively well, but we're on it. And the gang tackling here is awesome. And again, like Nick Bricken's a really undervalued hero of this game and our team in general. He's only a junior in this film, but Nick sniffs this out and gets through the bodies and gets up there to eventually make this play. And then Gabe's over there as well. I think Duke might be in over there also. This is such a great rally to the football here from our kids. We're getting held. We're getting grabbed. We contain it pretty well, and then we get good pursuit over here from Gabe and these guys. And, man, that's a huge stop because Markel in open space is dangerous. You know, that's one good thing about him playing running back is at least you know where he is and you've got people around him. When he gets out here in space like this, you better put your seatbelt on.
Boy, here's 54 in the air.
Yeah, he absolutely hammers this. They've had some great kickers and punters down there too, man.
Yeah, they have.
For all the talented kids they've had over the years, they've had some pretty good special teams kids too.
So down 7.
Yeah, same thing. We're coming right back to Old Faithful here. Nothing special. Here comes
kind of get that 6-1 look here this time.
Yeah, here comes Trap with James. You know, the thing with Sterling in there too, it's not a knock on Sterling. James had come back to that series. Obviously, you just saw James in on that last red zone thing after Sterling came back out. But, you know, James is a great runner, and you can't just put Sterling in to run Trap. So we come back to Trap with James, and James squirts one through here. You can even tell, though, there, like, he's just a different runner than Sterling was. It doesn't hit with quite as much oomph, but he's a good open field runner too. So we punch a good trap out there with him and get ourselves moving. Nice little play action, same deal. We're going to hit out here outside the numbers. This is just twins out again. Big throw to Noah into the boundary for a first down. Same area of the field, different kid. Same route, though. Quarterback concept run here on like our quarterback lead sweep. Yeah, the cameraman doesn't do great here, but we get really nice blocking up front on this one, and we get the edge, and Alex actually gets out around them here to get us into second and short. Another really nice zone here from us. I thought he was going to punch this in without all the harassment he gets at the end of this run, but
I tell you what, sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah, that kid, the one kid falls down.
Yep. One of the best players on their defense slips and falls,
Yep.
and you just happen to be running inside zone right at him.
Yeah. We get him blocked, thankfully, anyway.
Yep.
We had a guy for him, but, yeah, him falling down definitely makes it easier. Yeah, makes it a boatload easier. So, yeah, so we go 28-27 and tie it up, and, I mean, the place erupts. I mean, it is absolute pandemonium, and it goes from pandemonium to poop your pants. So Kyle at this stage is a sophomore for us. And, here's the other part about this that's interesting is this game, if you fast forward real quick. So we had made the decision that we had two good kickers. Kyle was talented and Spencer was talented. I know I've talked about Kyle having to stop playing football before for that internship he got, which was a spectacular opportunity, and he should have done it. But he did do it. But we had made the decision before the playoffs to kind of share the responsibility with the two young kids. They were both sophomores. So Spencer, for the most part, had done our PATs, kickoffs, etc. And then Kyle handled Spencer did field goals and kickoff type stuff, and then Kyle had handled the PAT job. And you got two young kids that are splitting that time, and it was great. It had been great for us. This is a big moment in the game, and a young kid just overkicks the ball a little bit and literally kicks the top end of the ball. I don't know if it was pressure or what. Kyle was a super consistent kicker. For him to do this was really unlike him. And as a matter of fact, a week from this game, he is going to set the state all-time record, going 11 for 11 on PATs on narrower field goal posts in a state championship environment. So I don't know what you want to call this here, bad luck, a little bit of an overkick, nervousness, I don't know, but it was unlike him. And I remember there were two things in this moment that went on, three things that went on in this moment. Number one, like I mentioned, I had learned so much from the year before to now. I knew that if my head went down, the team was lost. It was over. There's only about 6 minutes left or so right now, 7 minutes left, something like that. If my head goes down, the team it's over with. We lose this game. So, one, I stayed tremendously positive, came out to the field to meet those guys, and gave an uplifting message here, especially to our defense. Two is I had to go over and kind of console Kyle some because he literally felt like he had lost the game. And in that moment of a super intense, testosterone-filled, macho football game, you still have to have a love for your players in the midst of all that. And I've got a 15-year-old young man who thinks he just lost the game for a team of 50 kids on his one kick. And that's not true. And he is crying his eyes out before he even gets near the sideline. Not because I was going to yell at him, because I didn't, but he felt like he let everybody down and had lost the game. And so I've got to console him and let him know that we're fine. The third thing that happened was this. On my way talking with him and making sure that Kyle was okay, our defensive players came over to him and started tapping him on the helmet and patting him on the butt. And I clearly remember Sterling and Gabe and Garrett, all of them coming over and saying something to him. And when I'm talking to Kyle, they all said, "Hey, don't worry about it. Like, we got you. We're going to get this done. We're going to be fine. We're going to get a stop right here. Just don't worry about it." And they kind of looked over at me and said, "Coach, we got this. Like, we'll stop them. We'll get the ball back. Just don't worry about it. We're going to be fine." And I was like, you know what? I don't know. I don't know if we're going to or not, but I sure feel a hell of a lot better right now than I would have a year ago, and I feel a lot better than I did 30 seconds ago. And I always have a lot of faith in my kids, but to see the change that our team had made, that in that moment where you could easily have just gone into the tank, and to see the leadership of our team and our defense come over and console their teammate and their friend in that moment, and then completely laser refocus on the task at hand. Again, I get that the field goal coming up is a memorable moment for a lot of people. That moment in time right now, from that miss until this series starts, is one of my most memorable parts of this game and one of my proudest moments as a coach entirely. And there is no inside the headset for that, except for that's a story that I don't think anybody probably knows. You can watch it on a couple of the films, people patting Kyle on the head and the butt. You don't know what's being said there, but in that moment, that's what's happening. And it is really such a special moment as a coach when you see that your culture supersedes anything else that happens throughout the course of the game. Like I said at the halftime break, to see our kids just not even blink and then go reassure a kid in his worst moment that we're going to make this up. We'll get this done. Don't worry about it. To me is one of those things that I'll never forget. I'll never forget the kick either. I get it. But those little memories that I've got that are really special to me, that are very personal, that I get to experience as a coach. I'm sure you've got your own as well in there. Every coach does. Those are things that make this game so special to me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And more importantly, our defense does exactly what they said they were going to do.
Yeah, get a big holding penalty there on the first down to really back them up here.
They come out and play some really good football. Again, they're trying to burn the clock here, and we play really good football. And they end up then on a critical play here, making a mistake as this drive rolls on. I mean, our guys are playing really good football right now.
Quarterback zone. Quarterback split flow zone. Nice little wrinkle there with the wing. I like that.
Yep. So they get this thing into third and short here. And then we're actually going to make a stop, which is big. And then we get them in fourth and short. They try to get us to jump here. I'm going to tell you right now, by the way, it's about as loud as you can imagine in our stadium right now. They try to get us to jump. They call their timeout. They come back out, and then they jump. And this is big for us. Truthfully, could we have stopped this on 4th and 2? I don't know. 4th and 1.5? I don't know. They get a penalty here. The play looks like it's going to be a little bit of a crisscross zone. They jump, and it ends up putting in a position where at 4th and 7, you got to punt this. And I'm going to tell you right now, we're in business here. We are in business. I wish he'd stay away from that ball, though.
Yeah, that was making me just a little bit nervous there.
Yeah, me too. So
that's why I watched it 6 years after the fact.
Yeah, here's another one of your fun inside the headset type moments here. So the kids are jacked. Our defense comes out, has a really nice little series. We get helped by a penalty. We make our stop. And our defensive guys they're over there, and the guys that don't play offense they're cheering the offensive guys on. They're getting, they're hitting them on the helmet. They're patting them on the butt. They're, let's go, fellas. Let's go win this thing and all this, that, and the other. We've got about 4 minutes on the clock here. And so there's a couple things that are in my head right now. One, obviously, we have to score. That's pretty clean cut. It's 28-27. We have to score points here. Because if we don't, we're likely not getting the ball back. I've got my timeouts, but how many times can you stop their inside zone and the crisscross? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we could, maybe we couldn't. But I definitely don't want them to have the ball. So essentially, I kind of go into like a 4-minute mode here. Now, we had practiced a scenario like this a little bit with this group We do our 2-minute drill every week, but a 2-minute drill, we didn't have to use it a lot. And so we started practicing some other scenarios with these guys because they were a pretty experienced bunch. And one of them was like a 3 to 4 minute scenario, which we don't have a lot of time for in our practice schedule, but I just felt like it's something we should at least do. And we were fine at it. It's a little different pace for the kids. And so I just wanted to be accustomed to that. So we had done it before. The other thing then in my head with that is, in that scenario, I don't want them to get the ball back. The plan all along for this drive was we're either going to score a touchdown at some point, or I'm going to pull up and kick a field goal with no time left, because there's no way in the world I'm letting that offense with that kid come back out here and put the game in their hands again. Not happening. So I've got to adjust my tempo, and I've got to adjust the play calls for the scenario and where we are on the field, how much time is on the clock. There's a lot of things in your head you have to balance going into a 4-minute scenario, knowing that if we don't score a touchdown on one of these plays at some point, the ultimate goal is I don't want them to touch the ball again. So I also have to balance the clock. And that also has to go with where you are on the field and what down and distance you have, what plays you have to call. When is it appropriate to throw it? Because that's going to stop the clock if it's an incomplete pass. It could put you behind the chains. You got a lot going on here. The other thing that happened that I think really helped us here is it's funny how life kind of puts things on a plate for you every once in a while. Every Thursday we do our 2-minute drill. And occasionally we would run our 4-minute drill with this bunch, like I said. Every single week, I'm a creature of habit. And so I end the time in our 2-minute drill on a Thursday, I end the time with the number of the year it is. I'm a weird person, I guess. I'm just strange, I suppose.
That is something that you do.
Yeah. So And usually it really puts us against the wall. Like, we really aren't in a good spot in that 2-minute drill.
So, like, for example, just so people understand, like this past season, 2019, when we would do our 2-minute drill, we would go from whatever yard line Coach Large throws the ball to, and we would go with 59 seconds or a minute 9 or whatever, and it always ends in 9. So this year it always ended in 4 in 2014.
Yeah, and the timeouts vary. Sometimes we give them 0, sometimes we give them 1, 3, whatever. So it was so funny because in this year, our offense was really, really, really good. They're really good. And for Alex and the receivers and stuff, a 2-minute drill was no problem, none. I mean, we put them against the wall a bunch, and they would just march it down the field on Thursdays. And every Thursday then, Coach Luker, who at the time was our wide receivers coach, he would come over and be like, I don't think that you even have the ability to take 2 minutes off the clock. Like, I don't think that you're wired to take 2 minutes off the clock. You don't even know how to bleed clock, do you? And the kids would all laugh, and they think it's really funny and all this stuff. And we'd come out the next week for 2-minute drill. I'd say, all right, guys, we're on the 26-yard line. You've got 49 seconds. We've got no timeouts. And he'd look over and be like, you just don't get it, do you? You don't know how to run time off the clock. You don't get it. You're incapable. And, the kids would all crack up. And he's obviously joking with me because of the aggressive kind of play style that we have. But the kids thought every week he would say something different to me about my inability to be patient, And the kids thought it was hilarious. And, they thought it was like the funniest thing ever. And I remember we come out in this huddle, and the boys are, they're, the shoulders are bouncing. They're excited. They're hyped up. And I calmed them down, and I said, guys, look, you got to take a little bit of the adrenaline out of this. We got to focus. We've got to play football. We got a long field to cover here. We got a lot of time on the clock. Here's my plan, okay? And I said, you've got to just settle down for a minute, take the emotion out of this, and let's go play football like we've been playing it. And I said, we need to we need to get a good drive here that ends obviously in points, and we're going to take some clock up. And I remember the kids are kind of sitting there, and again, you don't really know what the temperature of the huddle is, so to speak. How are they going to react to that statement? I'm trying to cut that edge off a little bit so that we go out and execute. And Coach Luker just stands there and goes, "You can't do it. You can't do this." I said, "Wait, what are you talking about?" And the kids kind of look over at him. He goes, "You're incapable. You're incapable of running these 4 minutes off the clock. There's no way. There's no way you get this done." He said, "These guys are going to take this ball down, and we're going to score way too fast." He said, "I'm telling you right now, you've never been able to do it." He said, you don't know how to run 4 minutes off of a clock." And the kids start cracking up, man. I mean, they're laughing. They're laughing. Garrett's cracking up. Alex has got a big smile on his face. And I said, "All right, fine." I said, "Guys, here's the deal. We're going to accept Coach Luker's challenge here, and we're going to prove him wrong." I think Mike at that moment had a stroke of genius of, like, he knew where I was going, was trying to take the edge off of the kids. And he had used part of our routine to further kind of smooth that edge on them. And it was just something beautiful where he played really, really well off of what I was trying to do. And he's cracking up, and I start laughing in the huddle. And I said, "All right, guys, here's the deal. Challenge accepted." I said, "We're going to take every second of this clock off, and we're going to win this ball game. All right, here we go." And man, I mean, they were just so ready. And I mean, we're literally out here down a point, 4 to go, semi-state game. It's on the line, and we've got 11 kids and 2 coaches in the huddle laughing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a great moment for me that I'll never forget. And it was such a beautiful moment of knowing your kids, knowing what they need, knowing that they need to come and kind of bring them back down to balance a little bit here. And this really, quite frankly, is an absolutely beautifully executed drive. And we milk every single second off of this clock. And we all get a nice "I told you so" to Coach Luker when it was over with. And he just had a big old smile on his face anyway. So this is a great drive.
Great Poco route right here from Garrett.
Yep. We've cut. You've seen him earlier. We hit that touchdown to him one-on-one earlier. We get another, mismatch on a shorter kid. Do a little check with me here and come after him on a Poco route to get a big chunk of yards here. Again, I knew that at some point the 3s and the 4s and the 5s weren't going to cut it here. You've got to get a big gainer in a 4-minute drive at some point with the amount of clock that I'm bleeding, and this was our big hitter. Alex throws an absolute shot right on the numbers where we want it to be. And yeah, we're in business here. Scored another big one through, trying to stay in bounds. We don't want them to get the ball back. Again, telling them what the goal here is, by the way, as a coach, is important because they've been trained for 2-minute drills a lot. 4-minute drills, not as often. I don't want them going out of bounds right now unless I tell them to. So everything in this thing was essentially kind of wired to do the opposite of what a 2-minute drill was. So I wanted them to be clear, this is our 4-minute drill, guys. We're not going out of bounds. We're not going to be spiking the football. There's no need to sprint to the line of scrimmage. We don't want that stuff. Take your time. Another good one here on just an inside hitch route. There's just a different mentality, and you've got to make sure the kids are clear on that as a coordinator. You've got to make sure they understand exactly what you want. This was a little bit of a tough moment here on 2nd and medium. We don't get anything, which puts us in 3rd and medium. It's like, oh, no. But we're going to stay the course. Really good job up front on this play. Really good job.
Huge conversion.
Obviously. James does a great job with his legs on this too, but the offensive line really is starting to feel it. You see some of their subs are in now. They've got different kids in at different spots, which I think, like I said, plays into our advantage some here. They got that big tight end at defensive end who doesn't make this play because, he doesn't really practice there. So
same trap.
Yeah. I mean, again, people in the first half thought I was a moron because why are you running trap? It ain't working. Well, it was fine. We just had to execute it better. Here it is again. Nothing tricky, nothing crazy.
So how much time right now? Any idea?
We're at about a minute.
Are you starting to think 3 at this point based on where you're at on the field? I mean, you're on the 11-yard line.
No, I'm still going for 7 right now. It's going to change here in a minute. We're under a minute. We're under a minute right now, though. But I'm still thinking 7. We're going to keep it pretty safe and pretty simple here. It's going to pretty much be inside zone or quarterback lead or quarterback zone here to finish this thing out. We'd squirted a couple through. We had not been very good in the red zone, which you've seen running the football. But this is going to be kind of our quarterback lead here. We're just trying to keep the ball safe right now, get the ball in the middle of the field, make this as easy as we can. There's Alex going. That last play right there, I think we had about, 30 seconds left or something like that in that last play, roughly 30, 20-something seconds left. So we had called timeout, and I kind of combined a bunch of stuff on that play, and I just said, look, we're not handing this ball off. Noah's going to run ISO. James, you're just going to find anything that's in front of you and hit it. Alex, run to your left and get the ball in the middle of the field. Like, I don't care about – I know we don't, quote-unquote, have this play. Like, if you watch it, you're going to probably look at this and be like, what is this? We'd run ISO in this game, but I don't want to hand the ball off right now. So, essentially, Alex is just going to let James get in front of him here and then go to the middle of the field. And he gets hit kind of right in the middle and then falls left, which pretty much puts us just a hair left of center, which for a right-footed kicker is fine. And now the game begins. So this series of events here, if you just hit play, so this is really interesting. So I have one timeout left. I essentially sat there and watched the clock. I went over to the official on our sideline and I said, okay, I want a timeout with 2 seconds left on the clock. Okay. And this kills me.
On the game clock.
On the game clock. On the game clock. 2 seconds left. So this kills me because he does what I ask him to do. He comes out, 2 seconds left, blows the whistle, waves his hands up over his head, and our clock operator doesn't stop the clock. He lets it run to 0, and then the horn goes off. So there's a moment of, I know what just happened. You can't see it on film, but Columbus East players start celebrating, and people in our stands are frozen, as if I just let the clock run out and die with a timeout in my pocket and the game on the line. You know, I knew what I was doing the entire time, but our clock operator made me seem like the worst coach in America for a split second here, boy. I'm going to tell you right now. Columbus East players were celebrating. They half stormed the field. So obviously the officials clear that up. Now, I have no timeouts left.
He also signaled that timeout the wrong way.
Yeah, well, that's neither here nor there.
So this is your timeout.
No, mine is not on film.
Okay.
Mine's not on film.
Okay.
So we've already taken ours. So that we take ours to get our field goal set up. Okay. This now, so Bob had 2 in his pocket. So I tell the boys, guys, look, when you go out, and we did this to our kickers as well, we still do it to this day. When we do our field goal stuff on Wednesdays, I will either let them kick them for like some of their final field goals. I'll let them kick them in our Mayday scenario. Sometimes I'll blow the whistle and freeze them. Sometimes I blow the whistle and freeze them twice. Whatever it might be. We give them different scenarios. We've always done that. So our kickers have been used to being iced in practice because we'll ice them in practice too. I bring the kids over and I say, guys, look, there's 2 things that are going to happen. He's either going to try to ice Spencer, which is what he'll likely do, and they're going to call a timeout. Or you need to be fully prepared that they don't, and we snap this thing and this kick goes live. I mean, that's it. Those are the only real scenarios that we've got here. So don't assume he's going to call a timeout. Everything you do needs to be full speed 100% because there's a chance they don't call a timeout and they make us kick this. So don't assume they're going to freeze us, okay? We send them all out there. They go out to line up for the kick for our first one, and they call their timeout. Okay, so there's the first one. They call it. We come back over, and Spencer doesn't come back. He stays on the field. And I know I said this on my little Twitter top 25 thing, but one of the coaches walks over to me and says, "Hey, coach, hey, you know that Spencer's not in the huddle, right? And you know he's wearing like winter gloves out there, like big, thick winter gloves." And I'm like, "Listen, stay away from me and stay away from him, okay? I don't care. I don't care what he's got on his hands right now. As long as he feels good about what he's doing, you don't say a word to him. Don't even talk to the players. Get away. Just go to the other side of the field." Like, in that moment, that is the last thing we need. Like, I don't care if he's got an umbrella over his head out there. If the ball goes through the pipes, it doesn't matter to me, you know? And kickers have their own routine. And he was in his own routine at this point, and there was nothing that I was going to do to break his routine here. And so he stays out by himself after their first time out, okay? We come out a second time. They've got Markel over on the right-hand side because it's a right-foot kicker. So they come out a second time. They call their timeout right before we snap the ball. So we get this snap off, which is good. It's a great snap. We've got a nice hold. They call a timeout. Now, here's what's tough. I've got a sophomore kicker, and Markel drills him, which should be a penalty, but it's not. Okay, no harm, no foul here. The ball doesn't move. We don't change our landmark here. But now I'm thinking, oh, God, he just got absolutely smoked by a Division I tailback. Is he going to be okay? Like, is mentally, is that going to be in his head? Like, it was some really good mental warfare by Markel here. It's smart play. Should have been a penalty, but this definitely lets our sophomore kicker know, hey, bud, I'm the best player in the state of Indiana, and I'm over here on this side where your foot's going to be swinging through, and I'm coming for this. Like, it was a really beautiful mental warfare play by him. So they call their second timeout. We come back over. I'm on the headset with JD, who's our special teams coordinator, and we go over a couple of things real quick. I make sure I remind the guys on the right-hand side, listen, you have to protect the inside gap because you see number 2's over there with Markel. You have to protect the inside gap from number 2, but under no circumstance can Markel run outside untouched. You have got to put your hands on him. And I think that's Noah over there on that side, maybe with James or somebody. You've got to widen your stance out. You've got to protect the inside gap still, and you can't let Markel get a free run short corner on this or he will block it. Spencer is still on the field by himself, going through his kicks in his head, going through his motions, the whole deal, and just kind of executing that. And, you know, there was a small part of me that felt we've worked so hard to get to this one point. What a story this is, what a comeback this is. There was a small part of me that felt like we're going to make this. Like we're making this. It's too good of a quote unquote ending for our boys, a chance at redemption for us to miss this thing. That being said, I understand the game of football and all that goes into it. There was another part of me that wanted to literally projectile vomit all over the field right now. Just nervous for everything, you know, for the boys that have worked so hard to come back. Kyle popped into my mind of would a kid like that blame himself and think that he lost the game for us? If we make this, that's not even a thought. You know, the seniors who'd worked so hard, 365 days of what we put them through to close the gap on Columbus East, all those things rush through your head, and it all comes down to literally a 1.4 second play. And I remember we took a knee on the sideline and we all locked arms And as soon as this ball came off his foot, it was a no-doubter. And, I mean, this place erupts. I mean, you can see our kids, I mean, just go wild. I mean, wild. It was as emotional of a moment as I think that we've probably had. Again, you could just feel that kind of monkey lifted off of our back of you're the new kid on the block here, and you can't play with the big boys. You've got too much work to do. You're not elite yet. All the work that we'd put in, that these boys had put in, and I think you see some of that product in the following week where we played pretty loose and we played pretty well. This was such a major hurdle for our program as a whole. And to see our kids come down and just, I mean, play with that much grit and perseverance and toughness and really see them come together as a team in that moment, that game will forever be special to me for tons of reasons. But I think that was where you felt like, okay, we're not just a team anymore. This is a program. This is a culture. We've got something going here that's really special. How far can we now take this? And obviously, you fast forward, we've taken it pretty far, but this game was one of those pivotal moments where, I don't know, the trajectory of New Pal football could go one way or the other very easily if this game goes differently for us. And I don't know. You never know. Obviously, you know, what you just watched is what happened. We win the game 30-20. It was amazing. It was really an interesting story too. So, you know, we go out to celebrate when the game's over with, and the people that work at the local pub there in town, it's probably about a half a mile or more away from the actual stadium and stuff, that couldn't come to the games. They were working, said that they were all listening on the radio and stuff and the broadcast, and stood outside of the pub to hear. And they said as soon as they heard the roar, they knew the field goal had gone through, and they started pretty much bracing themselves for the impact of the crowd going up to the party. And they got inside and started working, and getting the adult beverages on ice and everything else. So that's kind of a funny story that then, you know, we obviously heard later on. But I mean, the roar of that crowd was, I mean, it was deafening. It was deafening. I'll never forget it. As much as that moment was kind of a little bit of a blur, the roar of that crowd, and I mean, tears coming down the players' faces, and I mean, grown men that had played for New Pal football, that coached for me, people in the stands, punching our ticket to get back to Lucas Oil, knowing what this game meant, grown men crying on the field or crying after the game in the stands and shaking my hand and giving me a hug, and all the stuff that this meant for just the community. It was a really cool night. I mean, it really was, and something that is really special. And I think that's why a lot of people requested this game, because it's not a state championship. It's not something that puts a ring on our finger, but what this meant to the town of New Pal, the parents of the players, the people who have lived and been here, it's easily one of their top moments as supporters of Dragon football. So sorry that we delayed it for so long, but it really was, one of the greatest wins I've ever experienced for so many different reasons. So, yeah.
It's a really fun one. We've done the New Prairie game already, but knowing you like I do, at what point in the weekend did your attention turn to New Prairie and your first state championship game? 2 a.m. on Saturday morning.
As difficult as it was, well, we traded the film late and stuff too, because our game went late, and I think theirs had gone a little bit late as well, and they were an hour behind us, so we didn't get it till what would then be another hour later because they're in a different time zone than we are. So I think we traded that film at God, I don't know. It was probably all said and done after midnight, 1 a.m. I enjoyed that night, and then, on about 3 hours of sleep, woke up at about 4:30 and started watching film. To be honest, I didn't tell anybody this. I don't think I've ever said this. I think I might have told Al this later in confidence, but I knew when I watched the film that Saturday morning, I knew when I walked in to meet the kids after this to watch the Columbus East game and do corrections and stuff, I knew we were going to beat New Prairie. They were good, and we've already watched that game. I'm not trying to slight them, but I knew that they did not match up very well with us, and I knew by Saturday morning, as long as we mentally regrouped, like I said before that New Prairie film, as long as we mentally regrouped, I knew we were going to win. But I still did it. I broke that film down. I did everything that you're supposed to do and then some. And I've explained a lot of that as to, what that game meant to me personally as a head coach, what it means to win a state championship. Having played for a coach that was a 200-win guy and Hall of Famer that coached me in high school that I absolutely loved and learned so much from, and he never won one. I think he lost 3 of them, lost 3 state championships, never got a win. That was an opportunity that I wasn't going to take lightly as a coach. So, yeah, I stayed in my normal routine as much as that hurt me on Saturday morning to wake up like that. I got up and did it. And but yeah, I had a lot of confidence, and I never told that to the boys. I never related that to the players, but I know Alex said this too, but the players knew. The players knew. As long as we come out and we execute well, we're going to finish the job. But yeah, my routine stayed the same. So I like you said, that doesn't really surprise you, I'm sure.
Nope.
But
Nope.
yeah, as much as you want to celebrate, you got to move on to the next one. And that's a hard part about coaching is you can't really enjoy some of those things as much as you'd like to. Like I would love to have sat there on Saturday and just watched the replays of the games and listen to the kick over and over and just bask in the glory of a semi-state championship. But at the end of the day, you've got another hurdle standing right in front of you, and you better attack it or you're going to stumble over it. So you don't get the luxury of turning off the engine, so to speak, and just kind of coasting on through it. You've got to keep on going or the whole thing falls apart. So that's the hard part about coaching. I look back on those with fond memories, and I think that's one of the hard parts about the profession we're in. In the moment, I can't enjoy things as much as I probably should or could. But I look back on those, like I said, the fondness of the memories that I shared with the kids, that's what's special for me. The boys get to live the moment. I don't so much, and that's okay. I enjoy the moments I have with those kids and with my staff. I look back on those memories fondly. So it's just different. It's different. But and maybe I'm different. Maybe I'm different in that. But that's just kind of how I am. So, yeah.
So where to tomorrow? Let me grab my list here.
Yeah, what do we got on the list? I know there's been a couple people are asking for some stuff as time's going on.
Yeah, I've got Snyder. I've got 18 Harrison. I've got 19 Whiteland, 19 Franklin. That's what I've got. Any of those sound good? I know Snyder doesn't, but I know we've been asked about it a ton. Probably need to do it at some point.
Yeah, no, we can do I'll tell you what, let's change it up a little bit here. Let's do because this will be a really good one to probably talk about. Let's do Harrison, because that'll be a really different look for people.
Sure.
They haven't really seen us play an offense like that, and I'm sure there's going to be some questions about it, especially because early on they really hit us with some stuff that that we struggle with. So we can maybe hit that one up, and then we'll do those for 2 days, and then we'll jump back and give myself the weekend to mentally prepare for doing Snyder. I'm not.
And then
We
I'll
also
try to do those 1 quarter a day too, just because of how many points get scored.
I was going to say we also
how long that game is.
Figure out the timing of Snyder, because it's a 200 play.
Yeah,
that is a beast in and of itself, and that might be a 4-parter. God, that's going to be painful to go back and watch that thing again, but we'll do it for the greater good.
There you go.
So yeah,
all right. Well, we'll plan on the.
That one will be interesting. I think that one will be really interesting.
We'll plan on the 2018 regional game against Lafayette Harrison tomorrow. All right, Coach.
Great game too. Yeah.
Yep. Good game. And we'll plan on seeing you tomorrow.
Sounds good.
All right.